Welcome to a special podcast episode. Today we are celebrating a major milestone as we have reached 5,000 followers on LinkedIn. A huge thank you to our amazing community for your support, engagement, and for joining us on this journey to uncover the stories of two energy resources that lay in the subsurface: geothermal energy and geologic hydrogen. In this special podcast episode, we will be diving into the exciting and rapidly emerging geologic hydrogen industry, and we will tackle this topic from various angles. Joining us is none other than Morten Stahl, a leading investor and expert in geologic hydrogen and a relevant voice in the global conversation on sustainable energy and energy transition. From his perspective, Morten will guide us through where the emerging geologic hydrogen industry stands now, exploration activities, its outlook, and its potential to revolutionize the energy sector, as well as investment opportunities. We will also unpack highlights from the recent H-Nat Summit, where thought leaders and innovators gathered to discuss the latest breakthroughs, challenges, and the path forward for geologic hydrogen. From market dynamics to the role of geologic hydrogen in the global energy mix, we've got a lot to cover. So whether you are an investor, an energy enthusiast, or just curious about the future of clean energy, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Let's get started, and thank you again for helping us reach this amazing milestone. And now, without further ado, Morten, welcome to this podcast episode.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here to celebrate the 5,000 followers. It's really good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I wanted to have a special guest, so
I'm honored, definitely.
thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Morten, I have very interesting questions for you. But first, we would like to know about you. Could you please tell us a bit about yourself and your background and how you became involved with geologic hydrogen?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think I've been into clean tech and investing to save the climate as long as I can remember. Starting out as an entrepreneur, building different companies. 5 years ago, I started exclusively investing into clean tech stocks. It was carbon capture storage, green hydrogen, renewable chemistry, always with the thought of doing something good for the planet and the environment while also making a profit. I do believe that the energy transition is one of our time's best investment opportunities. And doing this, I always did deep research into these companies. And as a kind of a rare thing of my generation, I've never invested into Tesla or any electric car, really. There's some metrics that needs to fit, can we actually see a value increase here? And doing this research, I found out about something called natural hydrogen or geologic hydrogen. And knowing what I knew already from researching the green hydrogen and also making some money on green hydrogen, I realized there's a huge potential here, because hydrogen has potential because it can be used for many things, as we'll discuss later. But crucially, it has to be cheap enough. If it is not cheap enough, if it's not cost competitive, it's the same as it not being there, because then it will not be used widely. We won't have any benefits of it. And natural hydrogen could deliver that, could deliver low carbon, low price hydrogen. And that really, really inspired me to then go on and get to know everyone in the ecosystem. I spent the last 3 years traveling, meeting people, and a year ago I created what is the first investment fund focusing exclusively on natural hydrogen investments. So far we made 2 investments, both in the exploration space, but we also expect to make investments into what we could call related technologies. Anything that will be much in demand when we start finding natural hydrogen all over the world.
Thank you. Now that things are starting to go in this emerging industry, there are important events. And recently there was this H-Nat Summit, and you had an active participation there. And for those who don't know, this H-Nat Summit is the most important natural hydrogen conference in the world. And this year's edition was the 4th one and the 2nd one in person. So how was your role and participation in this important event? And what insights and takeaways can you share with us from it?
Well, yeah, this is, I call it the family reunion of the industry. As you just said, it was the first conference dedicated to natural hydrogen, and in Paris, almost everyone working in the industry were participating, and it was great to see. I was very encouraged by the fact that the conference has grown so much. There's so many more participants. There are bigger companies now looking into this. Um, my focus in natural hydrogen is the financial commercial side of things. So there might be someone who has an even better take on what happened on the geological, let's call it scientific development. But um, I generally think that there's still a lot of good things going on, but what the industry would really need and what would make for an even better conference next year, also on the science part of it, would be more capital put into the industry so that we could drill more wells and have more data for the scientists to discuss and announce at a summit like H-Nat, because it's still very geologically technology heavy. But they did make room for two panels on investment. There was one on how to attract public funding and then how to attract private funding, companies investing. And I was lucky enough to be the moderator of that panel. And we had some interesting discussion on how to help attract more funds into the industry, because I see this as the crucial bottleneck now. We know a lot. We really need more capital to flow to the companies and to be able to go out and do more, most importantly, drilling some wells.
Correct.
I enjoyed the panel. The panel was consisted of five really clever guys, some entrepreneurs, and some were investors themselves. One runs a public traded company that also works with natural hydrogen. And we had many different opinions, but crucially, I think it was interesting from an investment point of view to hear their answer to the question, is natural hydrogen to be seen as an exploration investment or a technology investment? Because I very often speak with other venture funds, and venture funds like ourselves, normally, we don't do this, but normally they focus only and very much on software and technology, something where you can have a patent, something scalable. So they shy away from the exploration risk. So while we can do this, most venture funds want to go for the technology edge, which make great sense from the investment point of view. But the inherent, really brilliant thing with natural hydrogen is that you will be leveraging existing skills and technologies within the industry. So you won't find that many technologies to invest in because you will be retooling things from oil and gas and geothermal mining industries. So hearing most of these guys saying it's exploration investment, that that's food for thought on which kind of investors would be the right fit for the industry.
Mhm.
We will see and have seen big venture funds investing, but we welcome very much family offices, um, angel investors, and even as we can discuss later in this call, public companies, the stock exchange listed ones that has traditionally carried a lot of the risk on investing into exploration industries.
Yeah. What you're doing is crucial. Without investment, without money, I mean, exploration will not happen. It's very important. And were there any oil companies in the conference?
They don't advertise themselves that much yet, but you would see on the participant list geologists from the bigger oil companies as well, and we know from the industry that every major oil company are looking into this.
Mhm.
That's not to say they're going to do this tomorrow, but they are looking into it. They're aware that it's going on, and personally, I believe that oil and gas industry, big and small companies, will move into this. It fits so well with their existing skill set.
Mhm.
So even if you don't, but especially if you do feel the pressure from shareholders to do some energy transition investments, this should be a much better fit for an oil company to do than, build windmills or solar farms because it's actually subsurface exploration. Um, and I think they will do like we've seen with the shale gas revolution in US and what we're seeing now in Europe with biogas. They will move in and be what they call fast followers. I wouldn't credit them with being that fast, but end of the story is that at some point they will look into this and their initial investment in this space will be a small ticket for them, but
Mhm.
it'll be a huge exit for early investors or companies in this space.
They are watching from the sidelines, basically.
Totally, totally. I would expect that we would soon see some of them do a bit more than watching. But until now, we know that they're supporting some research, and the Brazilian national oil company has announced that they will be looking into it in Brazil. They kind of
Also
have to because they're
Ecopetrol.
the national company, but still.
Also Ecopetrol in Colombia.
Hmm. Of course, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They've been quite, vocal about, looking into it. No doubt, yeah.
Good. Very good. Uh, and now, what is happening in the geologic hydrogen arena right now? Uh, so, could you please give us an overview of what has happened in, let's say, the last couple of years? And then we can discuss some of the current exploration efforts and, what we can expect in the near future.
Of course. Well, I think the industry, in many ways, starts in December 2002 when Hytera lists on the public exchange ASX in Australia. Not that that most companies in this space are not listed, but there was some of the first company going out there saying we're gonna do this. For a long time, it's been a bit slow. What we really need here is more participants, and as I said earlier, more capital. But lately, you've seen a lot of new companies moving into the space. I've had a period where we've seen a new natural hydrogen company reaching out to us once a week. When you start seeing this many companies, of course, they will be at different levels of maturity. But it just goes to show that there is a lot of interest and a lot of skilled people out there. This is, as I said earlier, you're leveraging existing skills. So there's a lot of ex-oil and gas, mining, geologists who sat down and put some thinking into this and moving into the industry. But right now, what we have of available, knowledge, what's going out on the ground, is that we know Gold Hydrogen of Australia have drilled 2 wells in southern Australia on the York Peninsula, kind of testing old data that there is hydrogen and also helium down there. We're waiting for them to hopefully drill more wells so we can see something that probably flows more so we can have some kind of commercial proof. For right now in the industry, the only thing that has flown for a longer period and has made some kind of commercial sense is a well in Mali, West Africa. So the world is still kind of waiting for this new proof that very hopefully will produce even more hydrogen. Um, I do believe strongly that with all the participants working in the US, we will see the first, better commercial proof coming out of the US. In the US, we have companies like Hytera working. We have our own investment company we invested in, Serpentine Energy, and Pure Wave, H2AU, 45.8. But crucially, also, we have Coloma, the Bill Gates backed and Khosla Ventures, United Airlines, Mitsubishi, Osaka Gas backed company that has taken more than half of all the money put into this industry have been put into Coloma. Uh, they're a very secretive a company and they haven't announced what exactly they're doing, but it's the worst kept secret in the industry that they are drilling. Be my best guess, at least, since nothing is official, they're drilling in the mid-continental rift, and hopefully they will, with the capital they have available, could be one of the first to bring some interesting news into the industry. Um,
And here in Europe, we have Helios Aragon. They will drill in the Pyrenees.
That's right. We have Helios Aragon, and I think they have a really interesting project. And I know everyone in the company, I would say, but I think they're being held back by the fact that they can't get allowed to drill. The crucial problem, or one of them in natural hydrogen, is that as we didn't expect hydrogen to exist in the subsurface, it's not included in any natural resources laws around the world. So you have to either change the law or you need to do it using oil and gas laws. And in Western Europe, we have basically banned onshore oil and gas exploration. So there are some regulatory problems to be solved. It's been solved in France, where you can now get a license, even if it takes a long time from application to actually granting it. But the reason why we'll see a lot of things happening in the US is that you can just go do it and ask the landowner in the US, where in Europe you need permission. And that is what, from my understanding, they're still waiting for the go ahead from the local authorities in, in northern Spain to actually go do it. And that's a shame, of course, that's holding us back.
Similarly, in France, I think the government is also supporting. I mean, they haven't drilled yet, although there is a discovery in a coal mine, I think coal-bed methane mine. There was a discovery of geologic hydrogen last year, and I think the government of France is being proactive, and hopefully we will see news coming from France. Also, an accidental discovery in chromite mine in Albania. Also, we will probably see things happening in Europe. Could you complement more about this? Do you know more?
Yeah, totally. And I do think, being a Dane living in Europe, I hope and expect very much that it will happen. But as an investor, which is very much the glasses I have to wear,
Mhm.
I am not impressed with the speed at which Europe is moving ahead with this. I'm impressed by the fact that France, quite some years ago now, put it into their mining code. But I'm unimpressed with the fact that it takes at least 18 months from when you apply to get a license until you get it. That is simply, too slow. And hearing an H-Nat, maybe it seems now that even that timeline is getting a bit delayed. So, shout out to politicians. We have to be able to move a bit quicker. Uh, but I have high hopes of, maybe Eastern Europe are more incentivized to actually get this done. And I understand that in some of these countries, you can actually still explore for oil and gas onshore. And if that's the case, you probably have the right setup to get going right out of the gates. Just saying that the flammable gas you'll be extracting will be hydrogen and not methane.
Mhm.
Um, so that could be interesting to follow, no doubt.
Now, in that part of the world, well, more like we're talking about Turkey now.
Yeah.
Turkey burns geologic hydrogen. There is this eternal flame burning geologic hydrogen in Turkey. And I don't know what the government of Turkey is doing about the potential of this resource, but there is. And also Iceland, for example, now there is this discussion about a little bit technical here, the uh, continental ridge, or in this case, the Mesoatlantic dorsal, where
Hmm.
Iceland passes through. And beyond geothermal energy, which is a resource that exists in Iceland, also there is associated geologic hydrogen. But I guess the market is very small in Iceland, small country. But I mean, there are places where there is geologic hydrogen is being found, and there is potential, definitely.
Totally, and I think it's an important point, that for new listeners to natural hydrogen videos, it's important to mention that this is natural hydrogen is found everywhere, or close to everywhere, but always by accident. So from when I started out in the industry, people would still be like, "Well, does it really exist?" Now it seems to be the thinking that it does exist in huge quantities, but what we're still trying to figure out, where is it accumulated in big enough quantities for it to be commercial to extract? Maybe it could be some of the shows we're seeing around the world. If that's only a small pocket of hydrogen, that's good for science, but it's no fun for commercial production. Uh, I think and understand that Turkey has some really interesting geology that could be worked with, but I haven't heard that they're doing anything in Turkey. Um, there's a lot of different ways to view how could natural hydrogen be produced. And I feel very lucky as an investor that will do a lot of investments. I don't have to choose any specific, theory. We want to spread it out, saying that, so maybe this guy's is right about this area, or maybe this is where it's coming from. But like you said, where we do know it's coming from is Iceland. Geothermal vents in Iceland and actually other places in the world has natural hydrogen flowing. And while it won't be, big oil quantities, it's already flowing more than you have hydrogen flowing in the Mali well. So this is one of the places where, and I think very very relevant for what you're doing, geothermal and natural hydrogen really meets. There's the more you dig into this, and I'm hearing more and more people saying we've got to look more for the water flows and what does the heat mean for generation. So finding existing geothermal wells and removing the hydrogen that might flow, doesn't always, that might flow, maybe degassing the waters. There's a potential here that someone could produce. Not impressive, but small enough quantities if you have a relevant market nearby. A lot of interesting technologies to be developed. Maybe hydrogen sulfur would be really annoying in Iceland, but probably destroy your membranes you use to separate the hydrogen. And I know I'm getting a bit technical, but just saying that I think this is really interesting from a both technology and what do we know of natural hydrogen already point of view.
Mhm. Absolutely. So this leads us to our next question. What are your expectations for the future of this industry? And where, in your opinion, is the potential of geologic hydrogen? How and in which sectors or industries does geologic hydrogen poses to have a big impact?
Yeah. Well, I think people would fairly argue that we don't have any meaningful production of hydrogen, natural hydrogen, anywhere in the world. So that remains to be seen. But with the knowledge I have, sadly, a lot of knowledge that isn't official, I'm confident that we have already crossed from does this work till this will work somewhere. Maybe small scale, maybe not everywhere, but still the option that it could be a massive game changer because this is something that we will find is in many places as we do find oil and gas. So it's the question is still, would it be like oil and gas, or would it be like a commodity like soda ash, which you use in glass production? Some places in the world you can dig this up really cheap, like Turkey, actually, being a low-cost producer of a commodity, but the rest of the world have to use a chemical process. So I think, but the industry have shown us already because you're leveraging existing oil and gas industry skills. And the oil industry, for better and worse, made shale gas work. So I'm confident that they will make this work as well. And my best guess would be that we have already now out there, but not made official yet, wells that shows industry validating flows of hydrogen. But it'll just be a guess. But just that what makes me feel confident. Another thing that makes me feel confident, and let's to talk a bit about Coloma again, is that from what we know, because this is official, Coloma raised, I think 2 years ago, $90 million. At this point, that was almost all that was put into the industry. Maybe other than Coloma at that point got $5 million. And then they very likely drilled some wells, did a lot of work, and then half a year or 8 months later, they raised 250 million.
Wow.
And in such a new industry, and with these new investors being United Airlines and Amazon, they're not that crazy. So if you spend 90 million and then have nothing to show for it, they wouldn't have put in 250. That's again something that gives me comfort that the leader in this industry is showing a way forward. To your question about what sectors to be impacted by this, it will of course depend how much hydrogen do we end up finding and how cheap would it be. But I generally enjoy saying that sadly, it's the not very exciting ones. So I think no, you won't be using hydrogen to heat your homes. That's honestly ridiculous thing to use your hydrogen for. Um, in most part of the world, EVs will probably do the work of personal transport. But maybe somewhere where you don't have the good enough grid, you could use hydrogen. But where it really would be used for sure is in the industries where it's used already for fertilizer production, and especially smaller scale fertilizer production. And this is where you have some interesting, examples from calculations can be done on the back of what we expect natural hydrogen to cost and small scale ammonia technologies. Ammonia is something you can use for fertilizer. That means right now, if you were to find natural hydrogen in Kansas, you can actually take that hydrogen, put it into a small scale ammonia plant that was built to produce ammonia from green hydrogen, where the end product will be crazy expensive. But if you plug in natural hydrogen instead, you'll actually end up with a product that is cost competitive with the fossil ammonia used by the farmers in Kansas today. So this is one of the points that really shows how quickly this could move, because natural hydrogen has the potential to deliver ammonia, maybe at some point methanol for shipping industry or just plastic production, sustainable aviation fuel at no or a very low green premium.
What about power production?
If we find a lot of it, for sure, and again, it's something that's technically possible, but if you look at the price that are being paid for baseload power, even in US and the rest of the world, the price you get for your hydrogen, if you turn it into electricity, is not very attractive. You will actually end up turning your natural hydrogen into, you'll sell it for less than $1 a kilo. And as an early stage investor, I hope at some point that will be economical, but I want to go for more. The first investors taking a high risk, we will drill dry holes. So if we find something, I want the price to be higher. Not unrealistically high. I see some people saying that if we find natural hydrogen, we'll get $5 or $10 a kilo because that's the cost of green hydrogen. But what people tend to forget, there's a reason why green hydrogen isn't taking off. It's because it's too expensive. So no one's going to pay $5 or $10 for your natural hydrogen. I guess my best guess will be $2 a kilo to the explorers would make anyone buying the hydrogen able to make a good business case out of turning it into ammonia, or maybe even transport it to California, where they do have hydrogen powered cars and are paying an insane price for the hydrogen at the refueling stations these days.
You mean for fuel cells?
For fuel cells in cars, trucks.
Yeah.
What I said earlier, I think electricity is going to do a lot of the job here, but it's interesting to look at from the point of view, how can you use this without a green premium? Because let's imagine $2 to the explorer, let's give $3 to transportation, $1 in profit to the pump operator. That still means that you'll be selling hydrogen at maybe $6 at the pump, and that is cost compared. That's cost parity with diesel. On how far you'll be able to travel with the fuel, and that's a good example of how this could deliver alternative low carbon intensity fuels without a green premium, which is so crucial for make this happen. This is what, and now, I'm really warmed up now, you can hear, but natural hydrogen can do this. We could actually have something, it's one of the few options to help us reach the goal of substantially lowering emissions, because it is potentially as cheap as fossil fuels, and you are leveraging all these millions of people who know how to do this, thousands of
Yeah.
companies. I would say it's, if not the only one of only few ways we can still reach our 2050 targets.
Morten, our next question. Tell us about your investment platform, nath2investing.com, and how it differs from your daily work with your investment fund. Why did you create this platform, and what does it bring to the table in the geologic hydrogen space, and how it can benefit potential investors?
Well, thank you. This is, of course, natural hydrogen investing, and it's a favorite subject of mine. And thanks for putting in the question. It is different from what I do in my daily work. we're set in the world as a venture fund to invest in what we call private companies, and that basically means companies that you cannot buy a share in as an everyday retail investor because they are not listed on any stock exchanges. This is where we think we have an edge and we see some value, but of course, investings like that come with a lot of risks. You have to bring in a lot of money. We can only take professional investors into our fund. So when I saw in the last 4 months a lot of new companies moving into the space that are publicly traded or listed on a stock exchange, um, and as we track all these companies already, I thought it was a good opportunity to support a healthy public market for these kind of stocks, because it's one of the markets that will bring capital to the industry. At the same time, I remember when I was a non-professional investor, I really missed the opportunity and the information stream to understand a new industry. So what we've done with nat2investing.com is basically to create a website that tracks all publicly traded companies that works within the natural hydrogen space. So this is meant to be an information source with an accompanying newsletter. We just sent out the first newsletter last week to basically let the public know any information coming out of this industry, new companies moving in, taking new acreage, finding helium or hydrogen in the wells they're drilling. And of these 25 companies, we have put the 10 of them into an index, the 10 companies that offers most exposure to natural hydrogen, because only a few of these companies are pure plays. Some would also do maybe some mining or some oil and gas operation. So, but the 10 companies that offers most exposure, we put into an index so you can have a quick view of where the industry is going. It has a home on our NatH2 investing website, but it's called the NatH2 Index, a first of its kind in this very emerging industry. We're still building out the website. We're reaching out to the 25 companies working in the space to help them feed even more information into it, so that every investor, small or big, can go to this website and see what kind of companies exist out there, and what fits my profile. Do I want to invest in a company that is purely doing natural hydrogen? Or do I want to invest in someone that also does oil and gas, or also does critical mining to kind of spread the risk a bit? Or do I want to invest in natural hydrogen at all? That's to be figured out. I think this is an opportunity for big and small investors to play a part in something that I think is both one of the biggest profit opportunities and biggest impact opportunities in our lifetime. Perhaps it sounds so crazy when you say that, but I basically believe that following my own investment thesis is to invest like a good ancestor. I want to invest so that so I secure my kids a financially secure future on a livable planet. And that's basically going for investment that way I can both make a profit, but make sure that there actually is a planet with a habitable climate to live on afterwards. And that resonates with a lot of people, and a website like this gives you some information to figure out if you want to do such an investment, and if it's natural hydrogen.
Great. What you have just said, it resonates with me a lot too. I have children and I want a better planet, or a planet that will be at least not worse when they grow up.
Totally. I think we're totally missing the point here that, we are basically borrowing the planet. And if you borrow something, you return it at least as in the same state as you borrowed it to begin with. And I think there's a chance that the generations living now will be the most hated in human history because we aren't doing enough. But I understand it's difficult because you have to balance. We can't do only philanthropic stuff and only invest private money. You've got to make sure that you make a return, so you leave some money to your kids as well. And then that's just where I see these things coming together in a thing like natural hydrogen, but in geothermal as well. That you can actually do both, make a profit and push the world in the right direction.
sometime in the second half of the 19th century. I think it was the year 1870, something like that. This guy, Drake, I don't remember his name, but Drake, he was looking for investors for what he believed was, the new oil. It was going to replace the whale oil, right?
Yeah.
And you reminds me him, you know, looking
Well,
for
I'm glad. I'm flattered. He started a new industry, and
exactly.
while I'm not out there doing the actual drilling and exploration, but I want to support as much as possible that we can get there. But I very much feel like Drake, where he was ridiculed. Why should we want to go for oil? Because we have all the whales in the world. So why bother? And so I think he must have thought that people should have more imagination sometimes. To go
Mhm.
for it. And I feel the same. Luckily, I see now a lot more interest. But I tell you, when I started out 2 years ago, people would look at me like, "What are you talking about? This doesn't exist. You're just crazy." Luckily, a lot of things lately has validated the whole industry. So,
Yeah, yeah. He was getting that kind of response when he was looking for money for drilling what it was going to be his first well. He did it anyways in Titusville, and he was a
but we are waiting for the Drake moment. We're waiting for
okay.
still for that really we do find it. More often than we thought to begin with. But we need something that flows more. So.
Yes,
So there will be a guy out there or a girl who will be the real Drake, who does this, who finds this. And I'm looking forward
definitely,
to it to be announced. Yeah.
definitely. Now, you know, let's say I want to invest in a geologic hydrogen, which actually I do. Okay, and now you have this platform, index fund. You have lots of information. What should I do? A small investor like me, guide me,
As a small investor,
guide me.
that rules out, doing any kind of private investment and fund investments like what we do daily business. So it leaves you what's publicly traded. Well, I think which is good. It gives you some kind of liquidity. Uh, right now, our index is just an index. It's not yet an index fund. Maybe it will never be, but that requires someone who want to build and a fund to track our index. And I think the market is way too small for it to happen just yet. But if you go for exposure, if you want to invest in some natural hydrogen companies, first of all, full disclaimer: this is not investment advice and anything like that. But I'll share with you what I would do. What we're doing when we're investing in the private companies.
Mhm.
And one of the crucial thing is spreading your risk. Don't invest only in one company. This is exploration basically, and some will be wrong. Some will find nothing. So spread your risk in between different companies, but also between different geographies. Because maybe some will change their mind, some will have a good supportive system. In case it turns out you can get $3 tax credit for your hydrogen in US, that tips the scale a lot in favor of US exploration on the commercial side, because that really means that if you find something, you can get a lot of money out of it. But crucially, you know, spread your risk. Look at our website, Manage to Investing, to figure out what company fits your profile. Do you want to have a company that works near you, or do you like a company that also does oil and gas exploration, thinking they must know what they're doing? I would say a lot of these companies know what they're doing, but we put them on the website. It's not because we validate that they're good at what they're doing, but just that they are doing natural hydrogen, just to
Mhm.
make sure. Um, so spread your risk and never invest more than you can afford to lose. That's the basic advice, of course. But you have to remember, it's a very new industry, and you're doing some of the important lifting. Just putting some of your money you set aside for stock investment, put some of that into natural hydrogen. Gives you exposure to a huge upside, and you're pushing the industry and the world in the right direction.
Is there any trading platform that you will recommend to buy stocks for these companies?
I think it differs very much from country to country. What kind of platforms do you have access to? But um, many of these companies are very small, meaning that they aren't traded very often, and that is they don't offer that much liquidity. And some stock brokerage apps don't allow you to trade them because they're simply too small. But I found Interactive Brokers of the US to be the app that actually allows you to trade every company that we track. I have no dealings with Interactive, we're not on a commission basis. I just discovered this because I was myself looking for where it can actually be done. But I'll soon ask the 25 companies we track on the website to tell me if they know where can their stocks be shared, be traded. And hopefully that's something we can let people know.
Yes.
If you live in Latvia, what kind of stock app allows you to trade most of these companies or some of them?
Yeah, I think that's important. So if you want to invest,
But
you need
on
to
our
know
website, you
how.
would see. Sorry.
Yeah, if you want to invest, you need to know how you will buy these stocks, right? So I think it's important to know
But
which.
on the website, you will see the link to the stock exchange where the companies are traded, and you'll find also on our website the stock ticker, so you can search your favorite stock trading app and see what's available. There will be some of them. I widely expect companies like Gold Hydrogen and maybe Hytera, especially Energy de France, FDE out of France, that had that found hydrogen in the Lorraine Basin. They're such a big company, they will definitely be accessible. But they offer, of course, only very small exposure to natural hydrogen because they also do solar farms and natural gas.
Absolutely. And we're getting close to the end of the interview. And I would like you to tell us what, in your opinion, are the main challenges and risks that exist in investing in geologic hydrogen.
Well, I think main challenges for the industry, but also something to be considered when investing, is that will the company and the industry have enough money to see it through? Because this is exploration, it's new exploration, it's going to be costly. So it's with exploration, there's so many things that can go wrong. But as an investor, where I accept the risk, the upside in the cases where it does not go wrong, where it succeeds, where we find something, the upside is huge enough to balance out any losses you might have had on things that didn't work, both as a company, as an industry, as an investor. Because this is still an industry that is, as I see it, heavily undervalued. There's not the right price is not put to many of these companies, both private and public. But I think that's pretty much what to be said, stressing this is risky. And that's back to spreading, because when you drill wells, at least, even if things we know work already, 4 out of 5 will be dry, maybe even more. So, and you got to think the same way of some of these companies, that they won't all succeed. That's just how it is. This is what it means to be early stage. Okay. But this is also where you can make a really big return on investment. As a private investment fund, our target is always to only invest in things where we can vision at least a 20x return on our investment.
Well, thank you very much, Morten.
We can afford if something doesn't work. Yeah.
If you have some final words or final insights to conclude this very, very interesting interview.
Well, I think we covered a lot of good stuff. And while I thought initially that we could do this really quick, I do like this subject, of course. But I think I'll end up saying that natural hydrogen truly has game-changing potential in the true meaning of the word, because you're leveraging existing skills, because you have an existing market for this already. It could be as cheap as fossil fuels. So I think I encourage everyone, with the investment strategy they have, look into natural hydrogen, maybe put something aside, invest in something so that you too can be a good ancestor, to make sure that your kids have a financially secure future on a livable planet.
Awesome.
That will be all.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, Morten. And I know our listeners will take a lot away from this conversation. To our audience, If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to give a like to this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, and share this episode. Or follow us for more amazing guests and topics in the next episodes. Thank you very much, and until the next time. Thank you.